Hello! Welcome to our panel about an introvert's guide to online networking. We're super excited to talk about this. We've done it for PAX East, West, Australia, for PAX Dev. It's honestly been everywhere, and now we're online. So that's super exciting. I'm Victoria Tran. I'm the Communications Director at Kitfox Games. And these are all the lovely panelists, and I'll let them start, maybe starting alphabetically from Anya.
Sure. Hi, I'm Anya Combs. I'm the Director of Games at Kickstarter. I think I've been on every Introverts panel except for the one in Australia.
Oh, sorry, alphabetically.
That's okay.
Yeah, my bad.
Alphabet is hard.
I'm Chris. I work for a independent developer / publishing hybrid called TAG, which is short for Those Awesome Guys, out of Bucharest, Romania. And in my former life, I used to be part of many, many different events as part of the Indie Mega Booth Dev Relations guy in charge. Josh.
I guess that's me. I was going to say, I guess it's me now. It's like A, B, C, D. My name's Josh. I run a site called IntelliGame. We focus on making connections between games and real world scenarios. I also do some narrative consulting and IT. I'm kind of all over the place, but I like games. I like talking about games.
Hey, I'm Saleem. I'm the studio director at Co-op. We are making games like Nog and Winding Worlds, and we just announced Goodbye Volcano High. And I am also helping out with Victoria with Games in Color in Montreal.
It's true. We are doing that. Yeah, so I guess just to like jump right into it, what does networking in general mean to you? A lot of people have their like, they're like, oh, networking seems so cold and weird and I don't want to do it. But what are your thoughts about it? Do you agree? Do you think of it a little bit differently?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I think for me, networking is it feels kind of counterintuitive to like talk about networking, because I found that like networking fundamentally is making connections with other people in a professional manner, right? Being able to find other people who can be colleagues or that kind of thing. But I have found that my network is made up of people who I would basically consider like friends or at least associates, right? I feel like this is probably a thing that you've brought up on many other networking panels, is that like, I feel like it is less effective to like go out and be like, I am a writer and I'm going to meet other writers so that we can work together one day and writer stuff. I've found that for me, it's been more like, oh, I've met other people who also care about games, and now we talk and we hang out and we, see each other at an event once, twice a year. And then eventually something pops up where it's like, oh, it would be cool if we work together on this thing. So yeah, to me, networking is just like finding opportunities to work with people that I already like. And so it's a little bit less about like making professional connections and more about like meeting people in a professional space and doing so in a professional manner, which I'm sure we'll talk about too.
Yeah, I really hate the word networking because of all the baggage associated with it, and it means something different to different people, and people are taught how to network in different ways, and the fact that we're not all on a level playing field when we're talking about networking and what it means to us is actually this sort of issue, I think, because back in the old days when you'd throw everyone into an event and we were all in the same meet space, people were all approaching making connections in different ways. And I totally agree with Josh about like, going out and really seeking to make friends and just being an honest, authentic version of yourself and not trying to get anything out of it. But that's not necessarily everyone's approach. And so it does kind of put you in this weird space where you have to be this vulnerable, authentic version of yourself, but you're not sure if maybe the other person on the other side is doing the same thing. And it's just a matter of like really seeking out those connections with people and not trying to have any kind of deeper ulterior motive if you want to make meaningful, long-lasting connections, in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah, I think a lot of us kind of feel that way in terms of like networking as just building connections with people we do enjoy, and then having that weird like, are you being authentic? Am I being authentic? It's definitely very confusing. But I guess like in the sphere of being online and networking, and especially since this panel is technically about being introverted, like, do you actually think, can someone be introverted online? Is that a thing? Is that
Yes.
Tell me more.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. Okay. So generally speaking, I mean, I think being a little bit introverted online oftentimes comes sort of hand in hand, at least for me, with like online communication via Twitter or something. Even if I want to reach out to someone that I just generally find cool as a person or like inspirational because like based on what they've done in the past or working on as of right now, at least speaking within the industry, there is sometimes a certain, not really a boundary between people, but this sort of invisible wall that you're standing in front of and just sort of looking through, being like, oh, what if I choose the wrong words and it comes off in like the wrong way. English isn't my my mother tongue, so that's, I think, like an additional element that is added on top of that when it comes to online networking or online connections. But yeah, I think that's something you just overall get more and more comfortable over time the longer you're part of like the Twitter universe of game developers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I first joined Twitter, I was very shy about tweeting at all. I've always been a lurker online, so I think introverted networking definitely exists. I don't know if you had additional thoughts about it, Anya.
Yeah, sorry. This is like,
All good.
this is one of the weird parts of like being stuck at home, is that I constantly, not constantly, but I had to like order a bunch of stuff from Target, and every single time I order something, it's always during a stream that it comes, or it's like always during a meeting, and I'm like, like, fine.
Living true life.
Yeah, just living my best life here, trying to run room to room and manage the chaos that is my quarantine life. Yeah, so I missed what you said, Victoria, but I struggle with online communication because there's too much room for interpretation. And I can get my introvert tank full pretty quickly, so I need a lot of alone time, especially at conferences. I have a habitual habit of just like not going to just like not going to the show floor. I'll be like, I'm just gonna hang out in my hotel for the whole day because I can't do it. And I think that's totally okay. But a lot of the like networking or relationship building communication that I do at conferences is a lot of like trying to parse out what's real and what's not real and make those connections long lasting, because I don't have space in my life and my brain for nonsense or clout chasing demons, shall we say. And that's a lot more difficult to kind of parse out in a digital format, especially if it's like you can't hear what the person is saying, you can't feel or like interpret kind of what that like communication is. So I have taken to isolating a lot in terms of like doing a lot of these online conferences where I would normally be out and like hanging out and stuff like that. I will say the one saving grace during this 5-6 months that we've all been stuck at home is Guy's gig, the games industry gathering, which has been really rewarding because it has sort of been able to replicate that, like, yes, we're all in the games industry, and yes, it is sort of a curated group of people that are part of that space. But it's like, it's sort of Vegas rules, right? It's like whatever is said there kind of stays there. Which is also really important in a networking setting, especially if it's like, you know, we all have just endless amounts of friend DAs where we disclose information that maybe has like we have or has been brought to us about people in the industry or just things that are happening in the industry, games that are coming out in the industry. And so being able to have those connections of like, oh, I didn't know this game was coming out, or I didn't know this about this person, or like, here's someone that I've always wanted to meet and now I have it in like a very contained space. That's been sort of a saving grace for networking, because then I can also just be like, I'm out, bye, and close my computer.
That's fair. No, I think that actually segues really nicely into like kind of my next question. Anyone can answer the previous question if they want to too. But like, yeah, how is networking helped and hindered by being purely online right now? Because it is so different. And we don't get those face-to-face connections. And like you said, Anya, it's like, okay, it's harder to parse out who's just in it for clout, and who's in it for actually like, I want to get to know you, I want to talk. Like, what do you think the benefits of being online and networking are, and obviously the bad parts?
It's a lot easier to leave when you're online.
That is true.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you all the time.
No, it's fine.
For me overall, and that also sort of circles back to what Anya just said with the games industry gig that, games industry gathering, I think it's called, by Guy Bloomberg, that he organizes. It's incredibly open to the world, which is a huge difference in comparison to just these conferences in person. Really enjoy going to PAXs overall, going to other trade shows on like other continents, but that's something that like we as a studio being based out of Bucharest, Romania, are very privileged of being able to do so, especially since we've shipped the game and are in the financial capacity to do so. Many people aren't, especially with visas right now. COVID, that's a whole different story. And actually having an opportunity in environments like the gig or online conferences to meet all these people that you otherwise may have never run into randomly at an event is a huge benefit to, I think, everyone overall. On the to sort of circle back on the previous part of what's not as great about online conferences, or what sort of hinders the networking aspect, I think a big problem is the run-ins that don't really happen. Again, with the exception maybe of gig, where that actually is encouraged. You don't randomly wander into someone at a hotel bar or at a party or even in a hotel lobby, hanging out, drinking coffee. I think I've made some of my closest connections just by complimenting their game booths, or seeing someone with an exhibitor badge and asking what they were showcasing at an event, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's
I will say for me that there's this element of being a deep introvert and everything being online is that I'm already burnt out on talking to people, because I'm on Zoom so much with like work and meetings and stuff, that like at the end of the day, the idea of like making more connections with people can be a deeply like tiring thought. And so there's this like added challenge for me with like continuing to maintain relationships and maintain friendships, where it's like people are like, hey, do you want to hop on a Zoom and catch up? And it's just like, I really don't want to. I really don't want to do that right now. I'm so tired of being on video calls all day long. And so it's a challenge of like finding new ways for me to like connect with the people that I care about, or even make new connections. And I've been finding, I always feel like an old person, because I felt like I never really understood Discord until this year, where it's like I've been forced onto Discord, and now it's like where I live and where I actually make friends and like have real conversations with people, and away from like larger platforms like Twitter or platforms like Zoom, where like I'm physically present. And so, yeah, it's just this weird balance of like, I find myself somehow more introverted and more like people drained during COVID than ever before.
Well, I totally mirror that. And I think a big thing that is kind of underestimated is just that how much time we spend working now. Like there have been studies that have shown that the average length of a workday has increased by like 30-40 minutes, which is a typical iteration of technology is going to make us all free and happy. And then we just end up finding more opportunities to bury ourselves in our work. But like, for me, a lot of it is that idea that I'm on all day, generally from this same space, right? And so it's like, if I'm going to take a call or do a conference, I do it from this chair. If I am working my day job, I'm doing it from this chair. If I'm doing IntelliGame stuff, I'm doing it, and so, pardon me, it feels like there's not, it makes it harder to feel like I have a space where I'm just like cooling down. But what I really kind of vibed with, Saleem, was that like Discord has been huge for me. At the beginning of COVID, when everybody was kind of talking about the feeling like significant social isolation, having the IntelliGame Discord and the people who were like part of that community to be able to hang out with was a really big saving grace for me. I think that it's just that difficulty of like, it's another iteration of social media, right? Where there's this constant pressure to participate, and then there's like sort of metrics behind the value of that participation. Did I get enough likes? Did I get enough retweets? So it feels like if you're not at the right event at the right time, if you're not showing up often enough, if you're not in the right chats, like, am I missing these opportunities that could end up being, detrimental to the way that I work or the people I'm able to meet, because this is the only space to do it. Like Chris said, you don't get that luxury of being able to just be like, we happen to be existing in the same building for the next 3 days, and we happen to walk down the same hallway. I feel like I have to be far more intentional about where I'm going to meet people, and then trying to hit that off button and say, okay, out of energy. It's hard.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
there's another side to this too, which is just the general concept of balance. And specifically what I mean by that is the cool thing about being able to travel to conferences is that we all have lives outside of the games industry, right? And it could be that our outside life is actually making our own game, or it could be something that is games related. For me, that's not the case. So being able to say, I'm going to spend this amount of time at GDC, and then when I get home, I'm going to spend this amount of time doing the thing that like my creative endeavor on the side, and having that sort of like oscillation and having that balance in that space, that is gone. And I think, and Josh, I don't want to speak for you, but I think Josh and I being Americans, there is so much added stress that is going on in our country right now, that is making all of this feel insurmountable at times. So there's so much talk about self-care, and there's so much talk about like what we should be doing, and also just like we have to be even more politically active in our country right now than we ever were before, in the time of a pandemic when half of our country isn't even taking this seriously, depending on where you go. So our future in this industry is so uncertain, because we don't know when we're going to be able to travel. We don't know when we can actually leave our country, because too many people are refusing to listen to like just basic science and facts. So this sort of escapism of traveling and then coming back, traveling and then coming back, we don't know when that's going to happen. So it feels very like, I'm just pushing, I feel like, at least, and Josh, again, I don't want to speak for you, but
You haven't spoken out of turn for me yet. So.
It feels like a lot of this, as someone who's an introvert and someone who is like, I want to fix all the problems, right? Like that's essentially what my job is at Kickstarter. I'm pushing a boulder up a hill, and it just continuously is pushing me back down. So I'm personally struggling with just even the balance of everything, because the thing I hate most, this is so terrible to say, when I start a Zoom call with someone I don't know and they're like, how's your family? I'm like, I don't know you. I'm not going to tell you that. Like, what?
Wait, they started Zoom
Oh my
calls?
God, Victoria, all the time. They're just like, how are you? How's your family? I'm like, they're dead. Anyway, I mean, they're not, but it's like, I'm just like, no, this is so weird. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but like, just maybe learn my name first. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a weird tangent, but
I'm sorry. I know there's another, but I feel like that brings up such a good point, especially on this like online networking, is that like social norms have shifted so much in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
And then in addition to what Anya brought up, like, it's hard for me to even have the same conversations that I have with people who are like, I live in Portland. And so like for the last 80 plus days, we have been on constant protest. And like, even having conversations with friends of mine who are in the States and not in Portland, it feels like there's this level of balancing, like, how much can I talk about? What are the things that like are part of the way that I live and breathe every day now, that like, if I bring it up, I'm like, oh, well, I just brought down the conversation. You know, it's, so when it comes to this, you know, when you're all in the same space, when you're all in San Francisco for GDC, everybody can acknowledge the like dystopian ridiculousness of like all of these people showing up, and like there's all of this, you know, this you know, poverty and homelessness. Then like, how do we do something about that? And we're all existing in the same space and have a shared social set of mores, of like ways we interact with each other and ways to try and help the community in that space. But it feels really different online when so many people can come from so many different places and everybody's living vastly different experiences, even just bookended 15 minutes on the side of any individual event. So I think that it's a lot to compute, but it is a very necessary part of networking online, is like remembering like there's a bunch of stuff we're all going through right now, and depending on where you're at, like it's a lot.
For sure.
Yeah, just assume that everyone's life is a fucking trash fire right now.
I agree.
That's the baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all on fire. Yay. It's so on topic. Well,
sorry to like bring the mood down. I don't know.
No, it's fine. Though now I have to like awkwardly segue around from like talk that I really do want to have with all of you, but we gotta move on. I gotta keep it on topic. But let's go for something slightly lighter. God. So one of the biggest questions all the time that we have when we do the introvert like panel, whatever, and usually it's in person in conventions, but now we're staying online. So let's say there's like a cool game studio, oh, that's the phone ringing. Is that mine? No, don't
it's
worry.
A plant. Like, hey, this is cool game studio. And I was wondering, how should I connect? You just got to roll with it.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's gone now, so goodbye, cool game studio. But let's say there's another cool game studio on Twitter, on Discord, wherever you like. And say you're either like a streamer or you're a fan or you're looking for a job. How, and like we can like split it up into like job, fan, I want a key to play your game. And obviously this varies depending on what our roles are. How do you reach out to someone, maybe like almost like a cold call, like a cold email, like, hey, like I'm really interested in working with you. Hey, I really like your game. Like, can I grab a key? Or how do you request it? How do I request a key? Or hey, I just want you to know I love your game. Like, how would you recommend someone approach someone else when it comes to maybe asking for a favor or asking for something from them?
Don't ask how their family are. I can tell you that. It's real awkward when it happens. I mean, I guess.
It's very good.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's totally like, some people will disclose if someone says like, oh, my DMs are open. First of all, that is not an invitation for nonsense. And second of all, obviously if it's like a business setting, like I think there's ways to be kind about it. I would say a couple things here, and I hate to gender stuff necessarily. If you are a straight dude and you are reaching out to someone who is not a straight dude, and you are just coming from like totally pure intentions, love your game, would love to like get to know you or whatever it is, please don't use winky emojis ever. It's really creepy, and it's like for some reason increased in my life, and I'm really creeped out by it, and I just need to like make a public statement that it's totally inappropriate and you shouldn't do that. I understand people are trying to be cute, but no, I am a professional in the games industry. Victoria is a professional in the games industry, and we would like to be treated with that amount of respect that everyone else here receives, conceivably. I think thinking about it in the context of like, how would I want to be reached out by, like, how would I want someone to talk to me? Obviously with a couple caveats sort of in there, but I think something as just simple as like, hey Victoria, huge fan of Boyfriend Dungeon, thought it was really cool, love what you're doing. Wanted to know if I could get a key. I'm a streamer. Here's a little bit of information about me. Excited to hear back from you. It's as simple as that. I personally would be so receptive to that, other than like, hey girl, how you doing? I'm like, no. That's a block and a delete, my dude.
Yeah. Short, concise, and professional goes so far, because none of us have time for that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
I generally appreciate when. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't have time and I don't have the energy. I'm old and I don't care anymore. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
All good. Generally, I'm a big fan of people that prefer to not do Twitter DMs. I mean, Twitter DMs are great for like your first interaction overall, but generally when I reach out to people, I immediately offer like, hey, if it's better to reach you via email, let me know, or something like that. And as a ground rule, if you don't get a reply, or if it's a sorry no, then just take that. Don't be I'm not sure if we can swear on this panel.
Celine's been
just
swearing since like the beginning.
Okay,
it's fine.
cool. Don't be a jackass about it. I mean, it's pretty simple. Be a decent human being. I think, as Anya said, like be very clear in your intentions, and anything that isn't professional does not belong in anyone's Twitter DMs or emails or whatsoever. That's a private life thing, and wiki emojis, or even being straightforward with what your intentions are in that field, really out of place. Just don't do it.
In a bit of a different tone, one thing that I've started to really appreciate, and maybe this is because I just love food, but I've been getting people who reach out to me, like cold calls, are like, hey, I really want to talk to you for some advice, or I want to like get to know you or whatever on a professional level. I can give you an Uber Eats card, like gift code or something, and like to make up for your time. And every time that someone's offered that to me, I'm like, yeah, I'll set aside half an hour to talk to you if I get a free like lunch out of it, like for sure. And it's like, it's weird because it feels very transactional, but it's also like, it's just a sign that like, hey, I respect your time. I know you're busy. I want, like, if this was the before days, I would take you out for lunch or coffee or whatever. But now, because we also, it's been a way for people to connect from like across the world too. They're like, hey, I'd really love to pick your brain about something. I'd love to pay for it through food or whatever. And that's been such a nice, I've just really appreciated that, especially as somebody who's been extremely overwhelmed and not maybe cooking as well for myself as I should be.
I love that.
Yeah. Wait, why don't I get those offers? What the heck?
Got to tweet a lot more about food, you know?
Right. I've just made a mistake.
This just blew my mind.
Yeah, I seriously would have not thought about that at all. But there is that nature of like just trying to exist in a space where you feel like there's mutual respect. But I feel like it varies so much from person to person. So like for me, sorry, pro tip, if anybody's trying to connect with me directly, you're going to have to send me more than one email. Like I would love to pretend that I am like great with my email responses, but as pretty much anybody know, like if you haven't heard from me in 48, 72 hours, it's not that I don't care. I just am handling a lot of things right now. And my ability to like go through and handle inbox zero for the day versus like being able to inbox at all completely varies, you know? And so like for me, I really appreciate like a Twitter DM, or if somebody's like, hey, can we put together 10 minutes for like a call on Discord or something like that. I love comparatively like symmetric communication. I would much rather do a 5 or 10 minute call where like I know exactly like, hey, I want to figure out, can we work together on this project or this podcast or whatever, and be like, yep, I can put it on my calendar and know that I'm done, as opposed to let me respond to this email or get this Twitter DM at 10 o'clock at night and now I have to respond to that. And just, it's about, for me, I feel most respected when I am able to box my time and be able to say, I'm dedicated focusing on you right now. And then in 15 minutes, when this call is over, there's another person who I can pay that same respect to by knowing that this is concluded, as opposed to like responding to emails or DMs or tweets back and forth all day. I don't have the space for it in the same way.
Josh,
so.
Just that thing that you said is like, when someone reaches out and they're like, oh, can we do a call? I'm always like, but when they reach out and they're like, can I have a 15-minute call? That makes all the
Yes.
difference, because I'm just like, yeah, absolutely. 15 minutes, I can plan that. I know exactly what the start and the end is. That like helps me respect my time. It means you respect my time. That means so, so much. Just that one difference.
Yep. But
To
I'll say,
Go ahead.
sorry, just quick follow up. If you say 15-minute call though, especially if it's the first time we're meeting, it needs to be 15 minutes. Like if I'm doing something that like makes it go into the 2025, that's, you know, whatever. But I also want to be respectful of your time too. If you've said 15 minutes, you could have another conversation, another commitment afterwards. So like to me, like it's very important to be like, if we're meeting for 15 minutes, let's do it for 15 minutes. And then right when we're starting to get up to that time, if we need to schedule a follow-up, cool. But yeah, you got to be conscious of time. Sorry, Chris.
All good. Just two things I'd love to add to that. Generally, when it comes to Twitter communication, even if it's just like, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I love people that immediately make it clear what the time is going to be about, and not just be like, hey, I'm person XYZ. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? I like your work or something like that, because I want to come prepared. So we can actually make the 15 minutes worthwhile, your time and my time. And one thing that you had mentioned, Josh, just to sort of clarify, don't want to speak for you. Generally speaking, when it comes to like follow-up DMs or follow-up emails, just don't expect an answer even within 48 or 72 hours. Unfortunately, there are very heavy weeks for everyone in the industry where they're just focused, or they cannot upkeep their inbox as they might want to, or just generally that's not their main responsibility. So it sort of shifts towards the end of the week or to the next week and so on. Generally, like a 1 to 2 week follow-up, just a friendly ping, I personally consider perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get a response by like maybe at max second ping, then maybe it'll come later, or that person for any reason might not be personal at all, will unfortunately not respond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of what you're talking about is just like by setting expectations, setting time. It's about like, it really speaks to the introvert condition of like letting you know just how much energy you're going to need.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's I think that's a phenomenal point, because for me, I use so much brain power on a daily basis trying to set boundaries. That's something that I personally struggle with. And if somebody has reached out to me and says like, hey, I want you to do this thing, my brain translates that as, I need you to do this thing, otherwise it can't get done and people are going to be let down. And sometimes I can handle that. Most times, if I get 2 or 3 of those in a day, I am now on this like completely different level of processing, where I know not everybody goes through that, but it's something that I deal with. And I think, you know, other introverts process some of that as well. So like having those clear expectations of like what it is that somebody is asking for when they come to me makes it a lot easier for me to be able to like deal with that part of my brain that wants to save the day every day, all the time, and try to find those ways to be respectful of other people's needs, but also my own boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like so much of this is just like all about understanding how valuable our time is and respecting that amount of time and the time you have with us, whether it's with an Uber Eats order, which I'm really jealous about. Whatever, so you just rub it in. No, I mean, like, but there's other ways, like I think people can also like show appreciation. I know like someone reached out to me asking me to check over their Steam page, and just in like an act of thank you, they drew me a portrait in the game, and I was like, that's so nice. Like it was just really cute. So just like showing that you're thankful, I think is great. And I will say that my biggest pet peeve is always the Twitter DMs that just say hello.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want? Just tell me. I'm not going to respond to you until you tell me what you want. So totally agree. So I guess like if we're kind of talking about like reaching out to people and all that, especially with social media, I think it's very, very easy to see like how many followers someone has, and to see the clout someone has, and see like who they're interacting with. So how do you feel about like all this? I think we're mostly on the same page, but like just to explain like thought processes on what if you're feeling like weird about your own follower count, and like, should I even reach out to this person who has like, I don't know, 50,000 followers, or like, I only have 1,000 followers. Can I even talk to this person with 5,000 followers? How do you kind of deal with the I get like imposter syndrome, kind of self-conscious, like, what if I'm not good enough to talk to this person?
I guess I'll jump in there because like IntelliGame is not a large site. We have I think a dedicated community, but it's not like somebody opens up my Twitter profile and sees that I've got like 12,000 followers or something. And so in person, that was actually it was a space where it was actually really nice to be able to have in-person events, because like if I can meet somebody in person and have a conversation with them, then I don't have that instinctual, let me evaluate you based on these numbers that, you know, everybody has on a profile, or like being a Twitch streamer. Instinctively, everybody's like, okay, if you don't have 10K followers, whatever. But I have found that like, this is, to me, it's about, Nikki Case did a game that I pretty much swear by. It's like one of my game Bibles. It's called The Evolution of Trust. And they use game theory as an opportunity to explain like why the internet so often feels like a trash fire. But they basically posit that there are 3 different factors that you need in interpersonal communication to build trust. You need an opportunity for a win-win scenario between people. You need repeated interactions with the same people, and you need a relatively low opportunity of being misunderstood in that interaction. And like, to me, the more that you can create those 3 things put together, the better the situation will be. And so for me, as somebody who has like relatively low follow count, and I think even for people who like, people, you know, I know that, you know, this is PAX, and there are going to be a lot of people who are just getting started in the industry who will look and be like, I don't have 1,000 followers, I have 100 followers, I have 60 followers. But like, by creating, like, if you're tweeting and you send me a DM and I check your tweets and your tweets seem like tweets from good people, that's already a repeated interaction. If you sent me a DM that's respectful of my time and like follows what Anya and Saleem and Chris were talking about having you know, a set amount of time, this is the thing that I'm looking for. And even if you don't have an Uber Eats card to offer, because obviously finances are tough for everybody right now, but like, even if you are just paying respect, that already to me has created a space where there's an exchange, and like that you can create those elements of trust so that even when you are low follow count, you have a relationship with the person that you're connecting to, and that helps you get to where you want to go.
Sure.
I have a couple of things to add, if that's okay.
Totally.
No, it's not, Anya. How dare you try to participate in this panel?
Okay, bye. So I think it's important to establish, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, Twitter following means nothing. It just doesn't mean anything. It's just a number, right? It's not a number that you should judge anybody by. It's not a number that you should be judged by. It's just a number. That's all it means, right? Someone might have a bunch of followers on Twitter, but they might not have a lot of followers on Instagram. So what does that mean? Nothing. It's just a number. The second point, to the imposter syndrome side of things, I think there's 2 things to kind of keep in mind here. One, pretty much everybody deals with imposter syndrome, right? To some degree, whatever it is. Even if you're like, you know, you walk in a room and everybody knows who you are, that person probably still deals with imposter syndrome. Like, how did I even get here? This is all a lie. Everyone's going to find out I'm a fraud one day, whatever that is, right? And the second point to that is, whoever it is that you're looking up to, it's important to remember that they also have someone that they're looking up to, right? So like, it's a little bit of a cyclical thing. And it can be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit daunting. I think about, this is kind of, it's not a long story, I'll make it short, but I think about, I joined a band last year, and my first rehearsal, I like recognized the Sousa player, and I could not for the life of me figure out how I recognized him. And halfway through the rehearsal, I was like, oh, I have a ton of videos of him on my phone, because he plays and he was playing with a really famous brass band who I went to see them, and I just have a bunch of videos on my phone of this guy. Oh God, this is weird. And was like a fan of him and that band. And we have since become actually really, really good friends. He's actually like one of my closest friends. And we're actually going to a rally tomorrow to help some of the school teachers here in New York City to basically say, F you, Cuomo and de Blasio, you guys are bums. So like having those people become like, acknowledging that at the end of the day, everybody here is just a human being. We all have flaws. We all have good things about us. We have bad things about us. We might have an off day. We might have an on day, right? Like there's so many factors that go into these things. So just keeping in mind that the person that you might like covet or look up to, or whoever this is, like this person who made the thing, or like Rami's the best thing that's ever happened, right? He's the only person that I want to talk to. Everybody here is just a human, right? So try to find what that humanistic like level is. So if it's like, hey, I really liked your game, and they're like, thanks, and they walk away, like don't be offended by that. It could be that they had to go somewhere, they just weren't in a space to talk, right? Like this is gonna happen, it's totally okay. But I think that's just something to keep in mind, that like we're all human beings. Twitter followers don't mean anything. And it's okay to reach out to people. Like we're all just trying to form connections.
Definitely. I don't know if anyone else had anything else to add to that. Thoughts? Nope. We're good? Great. Yeah, because so I guess like kind of branching onto that, like yes, follower counts, honest, I agree, don't really mean anything. But like to be fair, like social media is exhausting. Some people are okay on it. It is part of my job, for example, to be on it, but I still do find it exhausting.
Right, you're like, some people are okay on it,
Some
but like
people are
your
okay.
TikToks destroy me every time.
Yeah.
So good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we talk about TikTok for the next 20 minutes then?
I know you would love to, Chris, but no, we have to move on. But yeah, so yes, so some people enjoy social media. Some people are like I could live without it. But since right now it's almost one of the best ways to connect with someone, what are sort of your tips on what do you do if social media like literally exhausts you? Like you go on Twitter, you're doom scrolling for like an hour and you're like, I haven't actually done anything. I don't know what to do with my life right now, but I still need to be on it because like everyone else is on it, like game dev is on it. I don't know how else I would meet someone. Yeah, like how do you deal with social media exhaustion and doom scrolling?
I mute a lot. I mute a lot of people. My sort of rule is, look, this is going to be my social interaction for the next couple of months, it looks like. You post one thing I don't like, I'm muting your ass. It's just as simple as that, because there's plenty of other people that I can follow. It's not a personal thing. It's none of that. It's for my own mental health. So if you're posting some right-wing nonsense, first of all, I'm unfollowing you, reporting you, and blocking you. But if you post something that I'm like, if you like, I hate to say this, but if you're like, well, not all cops, I'm like, I'm just going to mute you, because like we can have that conversation later, but I'm just going to mute you for the time being, right? And I do that across every social media that I have: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. I've muted pretty much every single person that I went to high school with that I'm friends with on Facebook, just because I'm like, you're all idiots and I can't deal with it. Like, I'm just not going to allow this space into my life. So muting a lot of stuff, and then making sure that you sort of curate your social media experience. This is the thing that I don't think gets talked about with social media a lot, is that you do have the option to curate it, right? So you do have the option to follow people in the games industry that you respect and look up to, people that are thoughtful. If you're like, I only want to follow trolls, guess what? That exists for you on social media too. That's fine. But being able to curate your experience so you find it to be a pleasant experience has been like, it's made my social media experience so much more enjoyable.
For me, it's also big. I fully agree with Anya. I've gone so far, I guess, over the last couple of weeks to either uninstall some of the apps from my phone, turn off notifications entirely, sometimes for just like periods of time. Right now, like all my Discord notifications are turned off completely. Same for Twitter, same for basically anything that's not like an email maybe or something urgent, just because it got too much. Like being at home all the time, having your phone in front of you, having your laptop in front of you, having to work, even when you were just doing your own hobbies, it was just sort of this clusterfuck of too many notifications and too many things to distract you. And that became too much at some point, which for me just meant turning it off and then turning it back on when I felt like it. Similarly, just logging off from social media for a set period of time. You have no obligation to be on it unless it's your job. That's a very different story, of course. That's way harder. And I wouldn't have an answer for that. But as long as it's not your job or your profession to be on social media, then I don't think you're missing anything from being offline a week, 2 weeks, a month. You can always come back.
I'll always be there.
I'll push back on that one a little bit, because I agree with like the mental health concept of it in particular, and like finding those times to like turn off notifications. I need to do that more often. I 100% sign on to that. I think that it's really difficult though, especially when you are a like small to mid-tier creator, because we also have to remember that like social media is the public square, but it's owned by private companies. And so they are creating a system in which they profit from our content. And so like the reason I bring this up is because like, if I take a week off from social media and I'm not posting in social media for a week, then the algorithm says, oh, you're not giving me what I want. I'm going to slot somebody else in who is. And so like, especially, I mean, like we've all watched, for instance, like Fall Guys, right? Fall Guys is huge right now. And in no small part, it's due to the success of its social media. That it's like, they're just killing it with this really funny, engaging content, but like it also keeps them top of mind. And so if Fall Guys stops tweeting, some other game that is viral and funny or whatever could potentially take that slot. And then Fall Guys has to fight again to get that space in the algorithmic eye. And so like, I feel like it is difficult to figure out how to manage that. And it's something I struggle with, because people will be like, okay, well, why don't you schedule a bunch of tweets and then take some time off? And I'm like, well, then that's still offloading all this brain power to figure out how am I supposed to tweet these things that I know 4 days from now when that thing goes live, that it will even be appropriate for me to say that thing. Because it feels like now every 8 hours we live in a different universe. So and this is to say that I'm not pushing back because I disagree. I agree with the things that you've said about like setting those boundaries, taking time off. You don't have to be here, but like recognize that, especially if you are like an up and coming creator, or you're a solo creator who doesn't have somebody else to kind of help you in those processes when you're taking time off, you're probably going to need to come up with some sort of infrastructure so that when you are taking that time off, you're actually not there. Because otherwise, like what ends up happening to me is I'll say like, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to my phone today. And I spend half of my day thinking about how I should be paying attention to my phone because there's some email that I didn't respond to, or some tweet that I didn't respond to, that now the world is burning as a result of my inaction. So yeah, so I should say I'm not pushing back. I want to supplement. I need to, sorry, I'm going to fix all of these things in post. Yeah.
I'll say that like, I think there's also, it's a challenge because we're being asked these questions, but we're also answering them in a way of like survivorship bias, where it's like, we have some success in this industry, we have some following in this industry, and so we're approaching things from that perspective, while someone who's just starting out or is in a different place in their career has to keep what we're saying in mind, that we are approaching it from that perspective, right? And I think that like, I fucking hate Twitter and I'm addicted to it. And I think that like is a very toxic relationship. And I think that to ask ourselves, like, how do we approach connections with that in mind, is that I try to look at how I keep in touch with the people in my life who aren't on Twitter, and what avenues I'm talking to them, and how we're staying in touch, and how we're keeping our relationship healthy. And it always tends to go towards smaller social networks, either direct lines like through iMessaging or through WhatsApp or through Instagram or Discord. And I think that like Twitter is great as a fire hose. It's great as a starting point. It's great to like introduce you to people. But if you really want to find ways to connect with people more meaningfully, I personally think that it's like a real challenge there, and that you want to take those relationships somewhere else where they're a bit more focused. And in some cases, you kind of have to also accept that like some of the people that you want to have those relationships with, you're just not going to be able to. And so it's about kind of creating your own spaces that people come to and like grow organically, rather than trying to have this preconceived notion of who you're going to connect with. And if you don't, you're failing at connecting or you're failing at networking. I think it's a lot more fluid and a lot more organic than people actually give it credit for being.
I would add to that too. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have anything to add.
I would add to that too. Like, I think you brought up a really good point, Saleem, which is like, if you are like, I really want to connect with this person, and for whatever reason it's not happening, two things. One, doesn't mean that just because you're not connecting now, you won't connect in the future, right? Again, you have no idea what's going on in people's lives. Always give space for that. Two, don't ignore the people that you do connect with though, right? Like, that's the other side of this, is it's like, it's kind of where the challenging part of networking is not being that clout demon, right? Like, I hate clout demons. It's a huge thing that I have to deal with, especially as like, you know, running the games category at Kickstarter. If someone like wants to take me out for lunch or something, I'm like, is it because you want something from me? Is it because you want a job? Is it because you want a feature? What is it that you want, versus me, someone who like deeply cares about people and wants to give everyone every ounce of me that I can give, who's going to take advantage of that? And so my instinct is to always listen. Like, I don't know what it is. Everybody dumps their problems on me and it's fine. I'm happy to like,
and we love you.
I'm happy to receive it. Like, it's fine. I can talk through issues with everyone. But how much of it is like you taking advantage of my niceness versus me allowing you to be part of this space that I like curate at Kickstarter, right? And so it's something that I like really, really struggle with in terms of those boundaries. Recently, it's people that have been outed in the industry using me as a way to get back into the industry. And that has been a really challenging space to kind of navigate, because I don't know what the right thing is to do there. But it has allowed for other relationships to form, which I think is really, really important to give space to also, because you never know who you're going to connect with on like any sort of level.
That's very true. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else, anything to add to that? Good, perfect. Yeah, I think that there were so many good points made there of just like not dealing with like the social media exhaustion, especially like seeing everyone online, and obviously the clout chasing, which is always the worst, but also understanding, especially I think since it's part of my job, let's say, and we're okay now, but like before, like when you have a smaller studio, for example, or you're a small streamer, like knowing being online is so important, and responding to everyone in a timely manner is like the number one best social media practice. It's like, did someone tweet at you? You better respond to them within like an hour, or else it's going to be a whole thing. So I understand, but I do definitely agree with like blocking and muting and really being selective of who you follow, and vice versa. Like if someone mutes you or if someone unfollows you, like it's not necessarily something personal. It's just curating your experience, and that's okay. I think we are slowly running out of time, but we do have time for like another question or so. We sort of already touched upon this, but like if we want to maybe leave it off with like your best advice for networking online, but also your like biggest pet peeve. This one might be like a bigger one if you want to think about it, but if someone wants to start.
I'll start with my favorite online networking thing right now. It's Discord streaming. Like, so Discord has done a bunch in the past few months, but I think some of it is just like using some of the functionality that has already existed, like Saleem was talking about. But so I stream on Twitch, and it's I enjoy being able to like stream to a large community and have discussions in chat and that kind of thing. But to be able to stream in my Discord server, it's like, it's a safer, smaller space. And like, we'll have people get together in a voice chat channel and play Fall Guys. And then like, if you're not able to be in that round, you can still like watch my stream or somebody else's stream. There was a time a bit ago, I think I was in the gig chat, in the game industry gathering chat, and like, there was one person who was playing like, I don't know, Fall Guys, and another person was playing whatever, and I could just sit there in that channel and just sit and like watch them play and chat super casually. And like, being in those small spaces where I'm not processing like, who's going to come into chat, what random thing am I going to have to process. And there's also a level of power dynamics that shift when everybody has access to camera, when everybody has access to voice, as opposed to just being on Twitch where I'm the only person who gets to speak and I, control the conversation. It just, to me, having those smaller, more intimate engagements that are a little bit more casual, they feel like the things that I wish that I could do in person right now. I wish I could get together with a group of friends and just like pull out my 3DS or my Switch and hang out on the couch while we're all like eating snacks, but we can't do that. So for me, that's a big digital, like if you're able to connect with a community and actually spend time in that community, not from networking, but just like to hang out, I think that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, Josh, that what's so special about Discord above all the other platforms available to everyone is that Discord is the only platform where you own the tools of moderation, where you can create bots, you can create tools to moderate and to protect yourself and to create that safe space in a way that you are not able to on Twitter or on Facebook or on any other major platform. And I think that that goes a long way towards reaching people, coming into being part of a community that values those elements, means that you're showing up as a person who respects those values and are accepted as a person who respects those values. And I think that that's really important and really valuable. So I just want to agree with you. I just think Discord's been like great for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of a good community, I just want to reiterate upon how great the games industry gathering has been for me, probably, at least from my personal standpoint. It's been my favorite thing happening as an event ever since, well, PAX East was the last in-person event that I got to attend that I think really happened. Afterwards, just having the opportunity, but not the obligation to be in these weekly happening sessions that go for like 12 hours. So no matter if I'm like out, well, not out with friends, but like hang out on Discord with friends in the beginning, or want to jump in immediately in the beginning, like that thing runs through the entire European night. So even at 4 a.m., if I'm feeling like it, I can just jump in for like an hour or two.
Go to sleep,
and
Chris.
even if I'm
Go to sleep.
That's a whole different it's a whole different problem. We don't speak about that. And the relaxed atmosphere overall, like the moderators around Guy have really managed to establish a place where, again, like I'm a straight white dude from Europe. I have it easy. I'm privileged. But based on what I've heard from other members in the community, seems to be a rather safe space overall. And if anything was to happen, then they would take action immediately and eject the people the person in question. So that's been really good, and really the one thing I look forward to every week to just return to. And if it doesn't happen one week, then I know it'll be back next week, much rather than like these constant B2B digital events that just happen 5 times a week, and there's just too many.
I completely agree. I think after PAX, I'm going to be done with the digital events because I can't do it anymore. It's fair. Too much. Yeah. And it's also like time zones are such a challenge, and I feel like I've been taken advantage of a little bit with some of these conferences too, because they're like, what do you mean you can't film at 11 p.m. your time? And I'm like, no, I have a life outside of this. I understand that we're all at home, but like, you also have to respect that I'm allowed to keep the hours that I want to keep, right? Like the ripple effect of why can't you just do this thing for me is like huge. And I think that's a thing that is not necessarily understood. That's a huge pet peeve of mine when it comes to networking, of the, why can't you just do this thing for me? Like, because it's not my job and I don't work for you. Like, it's
you can't turn around a video in 2 days.
Yeah. Why can't you film my podcast? Why can't you, for me, it's like, why can't you just give my project all of this promotion? I'm like, no, that's not how this works. It's sort of I think what it comes down to is understanding what those boundaries are, and then saying, I refuse to accept those boundaries. No, that's not okay. That's a very, very easy way for me to say, cool, then if you don't respect my boundaries, I don't respect you, and you don't exist to me. So like, that's it's a little harsh, but it's also like, sorry, I'm just not going to allow this type of behavior in my life anymore. Yeah. I will say, to reiterate what Chris said, the gig has been so wonderful. The games industry gathering, just like, they have taken action on people who have been outed in that space, which I think is a really good way to kind of like curate that space a little bit, which has been kind of fantastic. It's sort of an invite only thing, which I think is also great. I hate to sound gatekeepy, but I think for people that are in the games industry, that have been in the games industry for a while, there's some things that we want to discuss that maybe people who are new to the industry or are just trying to get into the industry, it's not that we think people can't handle the realities of working in games by any means, but we also don't want to turn people away from the sense of like, oh yeah, all this crazy stuff happened to me when I first started. I think anyone that's been in the games industry for more than 5 years can just tell horror stories of what the first couple of years are like. And I know things have changed. I've been in this industry 12 years, and things have changed so drastically, but there is a little bit of a, like, we've all been to war together. We kind of want to like relive some of those stories, but I never want anyone to be turned away from the industry for me to be like, oh yeah, all of the harassment that I've had to deal with, it's crazy, right? Like, that's terrible. I don't want to do that. So yeah.
Cool. Hello, Bear. Sorry, that's Saleem's cat.
Hi.
Love it.
Is there a little mustache?
Yeah, Bear's the great. So great.
Oh.
She's amazing. She's amazing. I love her. What a great way to end this with Bear. So I guess to end it off, starting alphabetically again, would you like to just reintroduce yourself, where they can find you on Twitter or any other project you're working on that you want to promote? Feel free, Anya.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Anya. I'm the director of games at Kickstarter. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter is ANYAYNA, or you can email me, Anya, ANYA@kickstarter.com.
All right, this time I'll get the order right. I'm Chris. I work for, as mentioned, the independent developer / publisher. You can always reach out to us if you have a project that you're pitching. Sometimes it'll take us some time to get back to you. I apologize in advance. And you can just ping me on Twitter to get my email address then at ChrisWulf _, Wulf with a WULF. And damn you, Chris Wulf with the real Twitter name.
The struggle.
My name's Josh. You can find me on usually on Twitter at Wallstormer. You can also find IntelliGame content over at IntelligameUs, and you can follow IntelliGame on social media at IntelligameUs.
I'm Saleem. You can find me on Twitter at Seemo, SEEMO, and I'm making Goodbye Volcano High. And if you ever want to talk about game co-ops and running a cooperative or working in a cooperative structure, please, please, please hit me up.
Awesome. And I'm Victoria Tran. You can find me on Twitter at @TheVTran, and you can also find the company I work for, Kitfox Games, at Kitfox Games. We're making a game called Boyfriend Dungeon and Lucifer Within Us. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to our PAX panel. I hope this was helpful, and good luck out there in the online sphere. And wear your masks outside or stay inside, whichever one. Bye.